Here in Maryland, we had a lot of snow yesterday. So unfortunately, my child, he was off yesterday and today, and it looks like he's also off tomorrow from school. So that's kind of a bummer since I'm kind of recovering from watching him for over 1.5 weeks of him being on winter break. And since I'm a single mom and I have to watch him by myself, it's been kind of rough. So I was looking forward to getting back to the normal routine of things, but it looks like things don't always go your way. So I'm here in my backyard. I just wanted to film out here even though it's pretty cold. These are some wood that I have in the backyard and it looks really pretty with all the snow on it. So I want to talk about how I believe that every soul here, all human beings, are here for certain lessons to be learned. So I believe that before we came into life on earth, we had agreed to learn certain lessons. And that means that even if as a human being we go through very difficult situations, in the case with me, it was dealing with a very difficult family. Once I realized after my spiritual awakening that I actually chose to be born into that family, then I came to an understanding of why I had to go through all the challenges that I had, and it brought me a lot of peace. So what I have learned through my spiritual journey is that the universe, God, Source, the infinite intelligence that has created all of us and all things and all of life, I believe that God doesn't judge. So whether a person is good or bad, or embodies light or dark, God doesn't judge. But ultimately, I believe that as a human being, if you live as a good person, which is your birthright and who you are deep inside, then I believe you will be rewarded with good things coming into your life. So what I have realized is that God really doesn't care. He has given us free will to live however we want. So whether we choose to live as a good person or as a bad person, God is just there watching us and just letting us experience life however we decide to live it. But there is such a thing called karma, which is that it's a universal law, and what you put out is what you get back. So what goes around comes around, and I'm sure a lot of people have heard this statement. And what I understand is that if you embody good and kind emotions and thoughts and will for others, then you will get back those kind of experiences for yourself. So what I believe is that each person embodies good and bad, light and dark, and ultimately the key to freedom is to embody both and to come to a good balance of that. So in my case, I think that I lived majority of my life striving to be good all the time. Maybe it was just due to my upbringing. I was born into a Catholic family, and I suppose going to church every Sunday, I have learned the importance of being good. But then what I didn't realize was that I also embody a dark side, which everybody has. And the difference is that you can embody both dark and light, and it's all about balance. And so I have learned that trying to embody just the good has caused me a lot of chaos in my life where I was being mistreated and my kindness was taken as weakness by a lot of people. And I went through a lot of emotional suffering as a result of that. And so, what I have learned is that I need to embody my darkness to protect myself and to defend myself. And maybe if I knew this earlier in life, then I would have lived a more peaceful life. I don't know. But it's something that I really understand now, which is how I'm able to live with a lot more peace and clarity and joy. So I think the purpose of life is to make our own meaning. I think that as souls, we are all here to experience this life on earth, which can be very difficult because it's very dense. I think that we are, as souls, we are all pure love because we are an aspect of God. But on earth, there are a lot of people, a lot of souls who don't remember this about themselves because part of the experience of being a human is that we are born and we forget that we are divine beings. And so there are a lot of souls who are so disconnected from themselves. And that's the cause of why they would inflict suffering on others. Some people are just really wicked and vicious because they don't realize that they are souls who are beautiful and pure and kind at their core, but they forgot all of this because we're here with this amnesia. And I believe that one of the reasons why we're born into earth is to see if we can remember our true nature. So for me, I believe that I am an old soul. That is kind of the message that I've been receiving from God. And maybe that's why, even as a young child, I was always in touch with my goodness. I was always very loving and kind. And I just knew myself to be that way. And I didn't know any other way. But unfortunately, some people in my family, they didn't seem to appreciate that about me. It's like seeing this light within me irritated them. And I didn't understand why until now as an adult. And now that I have gone through my spiritual awakening, I am learning that my family members, they were not able to see their own light. They were so consumed by their darkness for various reasons. I believe it's due to a lot of insecurities or self-consciousness or inability to accept themselves, that they were basically lashing out at me, unfortunately, and it caused me a lot of suffering. And when I removed myself from that family dynamic is when I learned to truly understand who I am. Because for a long time, I lived with a lot of disconnection from who I was. Because I knew that I was good, but I wasn't treated well by others, including my family. And it's only when I realized that I have the right to freedom and happiness and joy, which is my birthright. And when I truly understood that, and when I chose to lose contact with my family, that's when I became so blissful and so peaceful, which is my natural state. And so what I want to say is that everybody has the right to live how they want. So even if that means that a person chooses to remain in the dark, where they do not understand and realize their own divine nature of being good and beautiful and whole, then they can choose to live in a way that embodies more dark. They have that right as well. And I believe that the universe doesn't judge, and the universe just lets them live that way out of free will. But the important thing to note is that whether these people know that or not, ultimately their way of living, their way of treating others in a vicious way or a wicked way, it will come back to them because that's just karma. And ultimately, I believe that God just wants us to learn for ourselves that we have that free will to choose light over darkness. But no matter what we choose, even if we choose darkness, God doesn't judge. And it's not that we are getting punished if we are bad towards others and we have bad things happening to us. It's just the universal law of karma, which is why we're basically attracting what we put out. But it's not like God has a malicious intent of getting back at us or anything like that. And that is just my understanding. So I think that the important thing to note is that you have the free will to choose however you want to live, whether that means you are embodying love and kindness and generosity, and that you treat yourself as such, and you also put out that kind of loving vibration to the world, then that's where you're going to get back because it's the law of attraction. You basically get back, you attract what you are. And in my case, I choose to be loving and kind and joyful because I have always known that that's my natural state. I was born with that awareness that I am good inherently, and that no matter how people treat me, even if it's with mistreatment, that I don't lose that part of myself. Just because people mistreat me, I'm not going to all of a sudden choose to mistreat others just to act in the same way that I receive. So the important thing is to remain as my kind, loving person that I am. And because I live by those values that are so important to me, that's why I'm so joyful. Because I am being true to myself and I am living by my true nature. So that is so important to me. So ultimately, what I want to say is that everyone has the right to live how they want, but just know that as a soul, we also have the right to protect and defend ourselves, and that we need to use discernment and to use our good judgment to be able to stay away from people who are toxic and who are narcissistic, because these people, they can live how they want. But if you're a good person and you want a happy and healthy life, then you really need to stay away from these people. And even though as souls, they are kind and pure at their essence, unfortunately, they are so removed from their natural state that they just choose to live in this darkness and misery. So it's just so important that we protect ourselves and to just learn to love ourselves enough to be able to stay away from toxic people. Bye.